Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Daily December. This is day number 2. And today has been an absolutely horrendous day. Because of the withdrawal and everything like that, I have the strangest sleep schedule. And I don't actually get to choose when I go to sleep. I just pass out. And then I'll wake up in my chair after an hour or two or sometimes it's only 20 minutes, but I'll wake up and my neck will be in severe pain because I always pass out in the worst position physically possible. And then I have to try and crawl my way to my bed, barely conscious, and then I pass out. And then I wake up at 2 in the morning, and then I can't sleep anymore. And it's really, really annoying. But anyway, so this is the first time I've been able to talk all day without stuttering because of the anxiety and everything, and it has just been a really, really bad day. So I figured to counteract bad day syndrome, I would talk about something that I find humorous. And you guys might find humorous as well. And I think there's a very distinct possibility. I've told this story on the channel before. If you've heard this story before, it's a good story. Hear it again. And if you haven't heard this story before, it's a good story. So it is. I'm a huge Stranger Things fan. And very, 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 very slight spoiler alert. I'm not going to go into any really, really big details. But Millie Bobby Brown, who plays 11 in the series, mentioned that her first kiss actually happened on screen. That was her first kiss. And she's a young kid, so that makes perfect sense. I think she was 11 or something, or 12 or something when they first started filming the series, and I think she's 13 now. So she's a young kid. It makes sense that she wouldn't have had a kiss yet. And it got me to thinking about my own experiences with stage kisses because I have a background in theater. I've done a ton of shows, and despite the fact that for a long time I played the bad guy, bad guys don't get kisses unless it's Phantom of the Opera, and that's a whole different thing. But I stretched my range to low tenor, mid tenor range, so I could start playing romantic leads and stuff like that, and just leads in general. And I started getting cast as romantic leads in a bunch of different shows, and so I had to do kissing scenes. And the first one that I actually had to do, they took the kiss out because I was a freshman and I was a freshman in high school and she was a junior, and Stevie Wonder could have seen that there was no chemistry between us. And so we changed it from a kiss to a hug, and it was the funniest thing in the world because we're sitting there, we're blocking the scene for the first time, which if you don't know what blocking means, blocking is basically where you go through the lines and the director will tell you, okay, well, on this line I want you to cross here, and this is your mark for this and that. That's blocking, is putting the actual scene together and deciding where you're going to go. That's blocking. And blocking in general refers to movement on the stage. So if someone references, hey, look at your blocking, they're referencing, are you hitting your marks and things like that. So anyway, we're going through the scene, we're doing the blocking and everything. We get to this point where we're both talking to each other, and it's getting more and more romantic. And I'm saying romantic things that I could never possibly say off stage because I had huge issues with self-worth and that, and couldn't talk to girls. But I'm reading lines here, so it doesn't matter. And it gets to the point where stage directions in general will, depending on the play, if I remember correctly, will either be in parentheses or be italicized. Sometimes both, or they'll use brackets, but they're separated from regular dialogue and stuff like that. And so we get to the part and it just says they kiss. And both of us look down, look at each other, and look to the director who's sitting in the audience, and she goes, "Just hug." And we did that, and that was fine. But I had quite a few other experiences with stage kisses and stuff like that throughout most of my theater career. And it doesn't matter who you're kissing, how well you know them, or how well you don't know them. How attracted you are to them, the kind of chemistry that you guys have. Any stage kiss, film, stage, whatever, any stage kiss is never fun. It isn't. It's not fun. It never is fun. It's never going to be fun because it's weird. It's just an awkward situation for everybody involved. Because in general, most of these kisses are not, PDA style kisses. They happen in very intimate moments in the show. And depending on the show that you're doing, they can be very intense. They can be very lighthearted. But all of it in your character's mind is happening in a very private way. Whereas for the actors, you can have anywhere from like 3 or 4 people to 600 people just staring at you kiss this random person that got cast opposite you. And it's never fun. It's never romantic. It's never like, oh man, we should rehearse that again. No, it's always weird. And I think my favorite story about a stage kiss ever was we were doing West Side Story. It was a student directed production because they would never have let us do West Side Story done through the school because it's for those of you who don't know, West Side Story is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, and it's a Sondheim musical, and so it's unbelievably difficult to pull off. You have to have incredible vocal ranges for it. It's got very complicated singing. The dancing itself, the first choreographer that his name is escaping me right now, defined it and just created this amazing kind of combination between ballet and break dancing and all this stuff. And it's set in the 1950s, and instead of the Montagues and the Capulets, it's actually 2 rival gangs. It's the Sharks and the Jets. And the Jets are a Caucasian gang, and the Sharks are a Puerto Rican gang. All right, and so that's the whole thing. And then one of the Jets, named Tony, falls for one of the sister of the head of the Sharks, named Maria, and that's where the whole Romeo and Juliet thing comes from. It's an amazing show. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Anyway, I got cast as Bernardo, who was the leader of the Sharks. He's a lead character. He's not the male lead. The male lead is Tony. And not to spoil it for you, he dies at the end of the first act. Anyway, so him and this girl Anita, Anita is his girlfriend, and she actually basically takes the place of the nurse in Romeo and Juliet. She does most of the things that the nurse does, being friends with Maria, and at first trying to help her out with this whole thing with Tony and everything. And so anyway, that's her. In the second scene, the first scene is a rumble between the Sharks and the Jets. It gets broken up by the police, and then they go their separate ways. The second scene is a scene between Bernardo, Anita, and Maria, and I think one of my lieutenants in the show. So anyway, it starts off with Anita and Maria talking, and then I come in. And in the scene, again, because Bernardo is a very dominant kind of person, and he is madly in love with Anita, and Anita is madly in love with him. The first thing that happens when I come on stage is I say hello to my sister, I say hello to Anita, and then I go over and give her a big old kiss. Well, it gets to blocking time again, and we're blocking the scene. And the girl Rachel, I'm not going to give Rachel's last name, but Rachel was a very, very talented actress, amazing vocalist. I think you could consider her an operatic soprano, range wise. Like she had this amazing upper range and was really, really good. And that's why she got cast as Anita, because she was a very, very talented actress and she had an amazing voice, and it's a very difficult show. And I got cast as Bernardo because, again, I was a very good actor, and I had a very strong voice, and I could read music and things like that, and so I could do these very, very difficult vocal parts and things like that. So that's fine. And I also had some fight training, and so that also helped with the fact that I was going to be fighting. I ended up choreographing most of the fight scenes, simply because the director was also Tony, was also the producer, was also the choreographer and stuff, and he had no idea how to. He did not understand fight choreography whatsoever, and so I told him one day, he's like, just let me do this. Anyway, getting back, the exact same thing happens, and this is always what happens when you get to one of these scenes. Is you sit there and you're reading the lines, and then you get to the stage text where it says they kiss, and you look at you looked at the script, you look at each other, you look at the director. It happens the same way every single time. Rachel is a wonderful girl. We've connected after much years after this. We reconnected through Facebook, and she's wonderful. This is not meant in any way to slight her, but she was not particularly fond of me just in general. Like, she really did not like me at all. And the idea of kissing me visibly disgusted her. Like, she really, really did not like the idea. And at this point, I had done, I think, like a dozen and a half shows. I'd done romantic scenes before and stuff like that. I was actually very used to it at that point. And so Alex, the director, is trying to kind of calm her down, and she's not having this, and she's like, I really don't want to do this. And so I turned to her, I go, Rachel, we don't actually have to kiss. All right. Kissing scenes are like, it's never fun. Like, this is always going to be awkward. This is just how theater works. It's an awkward experience for everyone. So that's what this is going to be. However, your lips do not actually have to touch mine. It's one of the nice things about theater versus film. At that point, my shoulders hadn't broadened to the place they are now, but I was still a big guy. I was like 6 foot-ish, like 6'1", and she was like barely 5'6" or something like that. So I'm much bigger than her, much wider than her as well. She actually stayed in shape, and well, I was in a shape. It was round. And so I'm like, this is all we have to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stand in front of you. I'm going to stand in front, basically between you and the audience. You're going to put your arms around my waist. I'm going to put my arms around your shoulders, because that's where they naturally would go if we were going to kiss. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of wrap my much larger body around yours, and we're going to lean in. And our faces are never going to get more than about this close. But to the audience, it's going to look like we're kissing. Because due to the fact that just the angle that they're at and how far away they are, depth perception and the ability to judge distances just doesn't quite work the same way when you start, the further away you get, and you know, the magic of theater. I said, so we don't actually have to kiss. And she's visibly relieved. And I'm like, so here, just real quick. I sit there, I do it. And we have a little conversation while I'm down there. And I'm like, see, this is nothing. Don't even worry about it. It's very, very, I completely understand why you would be disgusted with me. I would be disgusted if I had to kiss me. So it's totally fine. And then we turn to the director and go, how did that look? He said, that actually looked really good. I said, I've done this before. I said, so that's what we're going to do. Don't worry about it. Don't feel bad or anything. Like, I did not expect to be kissing you. I know your boyfriend. He's a nice guy. He can also beat me up. Most guys could beat me up at this point. Or at least I looked like most guys could beat me up. I had, again, at that point, I'd been studying martial arts for about a decade. But I looked incredibly frail, and I didn't have a whole lot of upper body strength or anything like that. All of my martial arts training was on speed and accuracy. So I looked like someone who's very easy to beat up. And so I made that joke a lot. I'm like, he could probably, half the girls could probably beat me up in this cast, so don't worry about it. So anyway, production goes on. We get through everything, comes to, we rehearsed somewhere between like 4 to 6 months for this show, and we would rehearse 6 days a week, minimum of 4 hours a day. Sometimes it was 6 to 8. So we were like, this close to like Broadway kind of rehearsals where, they're 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then, 8 shows a week and stuff like that. We were doing this for 3 shows, just 3 shows. So first show happens, goes absolutely fine. People love it. They think it's the most amazing thing they've ever done because we live in kind of a smallish town. And so most of them had never seen the real, like, actual actors doing it. And so they thought we were amazing. We had a couple people in the audience that said, I just saw this because it was playing in Chicago, which was only, 5 or 6 hours away. There had been a couple people who said, hey, we just saw this in Chicago. You guys did just as good as they did, which was this huge compliment. We really, really appreciated it. So anyway, night 2 comes around, and the director, producer, star, blah, blah, he had such a massive ego. He decided to tell us that there were actual talent scouts in the audience that night. And that if we did really, really well, this could turn into a career for us. And so we're all freaking out, and we're like, this has to be the best show we've ever done. There weren't actually talent scouts out there. He was lying simply because he thought that, we had a really great opening night, that we would somehow lose it on the second night. Wasn't going to happen. We loved this show and worked our tails off for it, but whatever. So we're all getting ready for everything like that, and we're making sure we know our lines and everything. We're all really, really excited. And I had seen a show a couple of years previously. The show is Kiss Me Kate, and at the very end, there's 2 couples in Kiss Me Kate. And at the very end, for curtain call, the 2 male leads took the 2 female leads and just put them into deep, like, lean down kisses, and then brought them back up during curtain call on the final show. And it was a shock to the girls, and it was this huge funny moment for everyone, because the guys are sitting there going, ha 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 ha, that was funny, and the girls were very, very surprised. Despite the fact they'd been kissing these guys for months and months and months, they were not expecting it. And we can get into the, ethical ramifications of that later. It was a joke. Everyone involved found it funny. And so I had talked about backstage to a couple of the other sharks. I said, yeah, wouldn't it be funny if, like, during curtain call, I just laid one on Rachel? And they're like, yeah, that'd be really funny, mostly because she would kick your ass. And I'm like, yeah, she would. And that was as far as it ever was. It was just a joke. It was never something I was seriously considering because, again, at that point, I couldn't talk to women in general, which sounds weird, but that's how my brain worked. And I would never have done that to a girl just because, again, it seemed wrong to me, and I felt that it would turn out very, very badly. But it was a funny joke I could tell around the other guys. And I mentioned this to them, too. I mentioned, yeah, I'm not going to do it. It's just I thought it might be funny. It wouldn't be, and she'd get really upset, so I would never do it. But, yeah, wouldn't that be funny, guys? Ha, 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 ha. So anyway, we're getting ready for the performance. And, again, it's scene 2 that the kiss happens. Scene 2. So curtain's about to open in like 5 to 10 minutes. We're doing our last prep. I'm getting to my area, and Rachel comes over. Rachel's not in scene 1. It is just the Sharks and the Jets, and then Officer Krupke and his guys. So I thought it was weird that she was approaching me when we're already literally to start the show at that point. So Rachel comes over to me. She goes, Jody, because again, I'm much taller than she is. And I'm like, yeah, Rachel? There are talent agents and scouts out in the audience, or whatever they were called. I can't even remember what we called them, to be perfectly honest. She's like, but there's important people in the audience tonight. I'm like, yeah, Alex told me. Isn't that cool? We better do a good job tonight. Well, we should obviously do the best, give them the best show that we can. Like, yeah, totally. I was planning on doing that, but no, totally. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Don't worry. I'm definitely going to do my part. You just keep doing what you're doing because you're phenomenal. You're doing great. She's like, well, I think because they're there, and she's like hemming and hawing over this, and I'm finding it amusing at this point because I can see where the conversation is going. And she's hemming and hawing, and she's like, so I guess I could allow you to kiss me tonight. And she almost spat the words out. She hated them so much. And I'm biting my tongue hard enough to taste blood. And I'm holding back the giggles and everything like that because I realize that she views this as this incredible, thing that she's going to allow me to do, when I know that whether we kiss on stage or whether we just do what we've been rehearsing for months and months and months, is not going to be a huge change. And kissing her, while she still is a very, very attractive woman. She was a very attractive girl at that point. Stage kisses are never fun. They never are. They're not romantic. They're not enjoyable. So I'm like, okay, if that's what you think will give us the best performance, we can do that. And she looks at me and she just has this look of fury in her eyes. And then she starts to go, and then she spins and comes back and puts a finger in my face. She goes, but if you try anything, I will drag you off stage by your balls. And again, biting my tongue hard enough to taste blood. I go, nope, I won't try anything. She goes, I know what you've been talking about backstage, and that is not going to fly. I'm like, no, it's not. I promise. It was just a joke. I was never planning on doing it. It was just a funny story. I promise. I will not betray your trust in any way, shape, or form. I promise. Okay. She walks off. And we do the opening scene. It goes brilliantly well, except for the fact I think one of the actors rolled his ankle because there's all this like jumping, and we were running on, like, we ran through the audience and we ran on balconies and stuff like that, and so one of the actors rolled his ankle and actually did the rest of the show on like a sprained ankle because that's how committed we were to this show. And then scene 2 comes around, and I come in, and I am dressed in this really, really nice looking suit, and I feel like $1,000,000. And due to the fact that we've been doing dance rehearsals for like 4 months, I was in the best shape of my life. Like, I looked good, I felt good, and everything. And I walk on stage, and and I'm kind of prowling on stage because that was the character I was playing. And I say hello to Maria, and I'm like, hello, Anita. And I come over, and we press our lips together, and it was so bad. It was so bad. Not because she was a bad kisser or anything like that, but she did not want to kiss me at all. She didn't want to, but she thought that we had to do it for the show, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to argue with her. And so our lips meet, and it wasn't like, or anything like that. Like, we just pressed lips together. That's all it was. To be perfectly honest, I think it detracted from the scene because of how much she did not want to do it. But she felt she had to do this in order for, us to get, become big famous actors on Broadway or something. So the kiss happens. It's done. It's over with. We do the rest of the show. And we find out later that there were no scouts in the audience. There were no talent, agents or anything like that. There was nothing there. It was just a lie he made up so that we would hopefully do even better, which we didn't need. Again, we were obsessed about this show. We were so committed to making an amazing show. But yeah, she didn't drag me off stage by my balls, so that was a definite plus. And yeah, we actually we didn't really become like close. Like we were never like really good friends or anything. But after that show was over, I was a junior. I think she was a sophomore at that point. We had one more year of school together, and we did shows together, and we were in choir together and stuff like that. And we had a kind of begrudging respect for each other. Not because I had any issue with her, but she was one of the cool kids, and I was an outcast of society. But we were friendly to each other for the most part. She still really enjoyed ripping on me whenever she could, as did all the cool kids. But yeah, so it was this. She made this massive deal about, I will allow you to kiss me. She might have just said, I will let you kiss me. But that's how I heard it in my head is, I will allow you to kiss me, peasant. And I'm just sitting there going, it's not that big a deal. It's not like I'm going to go home that night and start writing poetry or something like that. At this point, I had kissed many girls, both off stage and on stage. And it wasn't that big a deal to me. And so I'm just sitting there, I'm like, okay. And I think she felt like it was this major, amazing thing. Because she'd never done a stage kiss before, I'm assuming. And yeah, it went fine. We had rave reviews from the people in the audience. You know, everybody loved the show. We had a blast doing it. It was one of the few shows in musical theater in general, when you first start the show, especially a show you're passionate about, you'll love the music in it, because that's one of the things about musicals is the musical numbers are the highlight of the show. And by the time you get to production, you hate every song in the show because you've heard it and performed it hundreds of times. It is so ingrained in you that you are just sick of it. And that never happened in West Side Story. Like we were backstage listening and singing along very quietly so that the audience couldn't hear, backstage to every single song. The music is that good, and we were so passionate about it. So yes, that is one of the, to be perfectly honest, one of the quite a few different stories I have about stage kisses and things like that, which is remarkable due to the fact of just the massive lack of a love life I have had for my entire life. Like, I've dated 3 girls in my entire life. 2 of them cheated on me, and I don't know about the third, because it's theoretical that she thought the relationship ended before I did. Like, I had really bad taste in women. I still technically kind of do. I've just been single for a decade, so it's not like that bad taste has turned into anything. So yeah, that's it. If anyone is getting into theater because they think, like in high school, they think it's going to be this amazing thing, like you get a romantic lead and you get to kiss, the hottest girl in school, you will hate it. So will she. It's not fun. It never is fun. It's not romantic. It's work. And as soon as you get past the like awkwardness of it, you can go on with the scene and everything like that. And the actual act of acting is fun. It is a ton of fun to do. It's something I wish that I could still do. And it's one of my biggest regrets because of the anxiety and the agoraphobia and everything. I can't do shows and things like that anymore. And it's something I miss greatly. But they're a ton of fun. And once you get over the awkwardness of romantic scenes and stuff like that, you can still have fun with those too. Just don't expect them to be romantic. Don't expect them to be, the parts of the show that you're like, oh, that was the best part, was kissing her. It's never going to be that way. Ever, ever, never, ever. I have done shows with the girl I was dating at the time, as the girl I was playing opposite against, where we had to kiss on stage. And even then, despite the fact that we had kissed and a heck of a lot more, many, many, many times before, stage kisses were still awkward with her. That's how it is. That's just what it is. They're never romantic. They're never enjoyable beyond the act of, being an actor is a really fun thing to do. Uh, they're they're not something any actor looks forward to ever. So yeah, that's my story for today. I feel absolutely horrible right now. I haven't eaten in like a day because I can't keep anything down, and I'm living on juice. So yes, I'm going to try and relax and get. I've had like basically this is the first time all day I have not been like either in a panic attack or just barely below panic attack range all day. So I'm going to try and capitalize on this and relax somehow. So I will see you guys next time. All right, tomorrow actually because of Daily December. All right, bye bye.